Welcome to tonight's special collection of chilling Halloween stories. These aren't just tales to spook you before bed. They are reminders that sometimes the scariest things don't lurk in haunted houses or graveyards. They linger in the places we pass every day. From forgotten highways to quiet dorm rooms. From the ocean's edge to high-rise elevators. Here are 5 stories you may not want to hear alone. The Forgotten Passenger. It was a quiet October night when Carlo, a provincial bus conductor, began his usual route along a highway lined with trees and abandoned homes. Most passengers were dozing, lulled by the hum of the engine. That's when Carlo noticed her. A girl seated in the very back row, dressed in an old faded school uniform. He didn't remember her stepping on board, but he walked over anyway, stub in hand. "Where are you getting off?" he asked softly. Her reply was almost a whisper. "The terminal." Carlo nodded, but unease gnawed at him. Her hair was damp, as if she had been standing in rain, and her hands were caked with dirt. Her fingernails looked broken, as though she had clawed her way through soil. He quickly returned to his post, avoiding the rearview mirror. But instinct forced his eyes upward. His blood froze. The girl was no longer seated. She was standing in the aisle, staring directly at him. Carlo blinked hard. She was gone. The seat was empty again. At the final stop, Carlo stepped off the bus trembling. The driver asked if he was all right. That's when Carlo saw it. The torn ticket stub lying on the ground. It was covered in mud, as if it had been buried for years. Locals later whispered of a student who vanished on that very road decades ago. She had waited for a bus in the rain, but never made it home. They say, each Halloween, she still tries. The room with red curtains. Mara was thrilled to transfer to a new boarding house just before Halloween. It was cheap, near a campus, and full of friendly tenants. Only one thing was strange: an upstairs room, permanently locked, its windows hidden behind thick red curtains. "It's just storage," the landlady said, smiling too quickly. "No one goes in there." But Mara couldn't ignore it. At night, she saw flickering light bleeding through the curtains, as if a TV were playing inside. Sometimes she heard muffled voices, like several people talking at once. One evening, curiosity overwhelmed her. When everyone was out, she climbed the stairs and pressed her ear against the cold door. Laughter, low, distorted. She pulled out her phone, set the camera to record, and slid it against the keyhole to peek. On her screen, there was nothing at first, just darkness. Then, suddenly, a pale face filled the frame, hollow eyes, a wide crooked grin pressed against the lens. Mara screamed, dropping her phone. The doorknob rattled violently, as if something inside was trying to get out. Then silence. Later that night, she found her phone back on her desk. Screen cracked. When she opened her gallery, her stomach dropped. A new photo had been saved. It showed Mara, fast asleep in her bed, taken from inside the locked room. The Lantern Man. Every fishing village has its legends. This one warned, never follow the lantern after dark. Thomas, a city boy visiting his cousins, laughed it off. On Halloween night, they walked along the shore when they saw it. A golden lantern glowing in the distance. "It's just a fisherman," Thomas said, grinning. He ran toward it, but the light drifted further and further, pulling him along the shoreline, then into the mangroves. His cousins begged him to turn back. "Thomas, stop, please!" But Thomas was transfixed. The light pulsed brighter, almost hypnotic. He vanished into the trees, his footsteps swallowed by the tide. The next morning, his shoes were found neatly placed on the sand. No footprints led away. That night, the lantern appeared again, hovering just beyond the waves. The elders whispered the truth. It wasn't a lamp at all. It was the Lantern Man, a spirit who lures souls into the tide, trapping them forever in the deep. Each victim makes the light glow brighter and hungrier. The Collector's House. On the edge of town stood a mansion that no one dared enter. Its porch was lined with mannequins, their glass eyes gleaming even in the dark. One October night, 3 thrill-seeking friends broke inside. Dust smothered everything except the parlor. There, inside a glass cabinet, hung dozens of porcelain masks, each painted with vivid expressions: sorrow, rage, joy, terror. "Creepy," Paolo muttered. He plucked one shaped into a grotesque grin. "Souvenir." That night, back in their apartment, Paolo hung the mask on his wall. At first, it was just eerie decoration. But soon, they noticed the smile changing. Wider, sharper, almost alive. Paolo too began to change. His own smile stretched unnaturally. He laughed at nothing. He stopped blinking. One morning, his friends found his door locked. When they broke it down, Paolo was gone. The mask remained, its expression frozen in his exact grin. Next to it hung another mask, newly painted, bearing his likeness. The collector had found his next piece. The elevator at midnight. Elena worked late shifts in a modern high-rise. The building had only 15 floors, but co-workers joked about a rule: never ride the elevator alone at midnight. On Halloween, she stayed too late. At 12:03 a.m., she stepped into the elevator. At the 17th floor, the elevator jolted. The doors opened to a pitch-black hallway. But there was no 17th floor. At the end of the corridor stood a figure, impossibly tall, with faintly glowing eyes. It whispered her name. Panicking, Elena slammed the close button. The elevator shuddered, then descended, but too slowly. It stopped at B3. The building had no basement. 3. The doors opened. Mirrors lined the hallway. Dozens of Elena stared back, except one. The farthest reflection didn't mimic her. It just smiled. The door shut. When they opened again, the elevator was empty. Now, every midnight, the elevator still stops at 17. Security guards swear they hear muffled screams coming from B3. And so ends tonight's stories. But remember, every legend begins with someone who didn't believe. A passenger who thought it was just a bus ride. A tenant who couldn't resist peeking. A boy who followed a light. A friend who wanted a souvenir. Or a worker who thought the elevator was safe. This Halloween, stay cautious. Because the scariest stories always start with someone just like you.